anytime we do surveys, we can often see trends on the executive team just by looking at the opinions of people who work for that executive team. Because the divides in departments, departmental silos, will often reflect some of that discord happening with individuals on the executive team. It's quite interesting to be in that position to get to see that, but we've done it so many times it proves itself to be true. So of course, in this company, where we've got a couple of head-to-head executives, you can be sure those two departments were also not working well together. So we've got a head of engineering and a head of sales, and those two departments are not happening. They're tense. They're competing in their commitments, and often instead of working together, they're doing the opposite. So if you as a CEO recognize that you are the nucleus of the culture and that your team that surrounds you is the first ring of that culture, it puts you in an amazing position to make a huge change. You have a lot of power in that position. Instead of thinking it's all out of my hands, it now gives you a really clear capability to see that you can make a change in your entire company by shifting the nature of your executive team. But how? How do you do it? And I think I like this metaphor. So if you look at this rubber band and you imagine that we're looking for healthy tension on a team, because if there's not enough tension on an executive team, then it's kind of like this, and it's just droopy. And maybe you make all the decisions as the CEO, or one person has all the voice and everybody else is like, well, that sounds good to me. But you don't get that fire in the belly feeling. You just have a droopy team that's going with the motions of one or two people's decisions. And then you have, on the other hand, this rubber band, as it stretches and stretches and stretches and stretches, you get over tense. And a way to think about that is this is a polarity. It's like a battery. There's the positive and the negative poles over here. And the further and further and further away they get, the higher tension there is on that team. And you feel it when you walk into the room. And what's funny is when you think about positive and negative poles on a battery, if one person thinks they're the positive and the other person is the negative, well, you can reverse it. And the person over here thinks they're positive and the other person is negative. So they're just committed to their point of view being right. And the more that somebody locks into their point of view being right, and there's no discussion about it, it just gets wider and wider and wider and wider. And you want to get your team to like here, healthy tension, relaxed at the same time. The key is listening. And it's a very clear shift that as a team, you have to learn together. You have to prioritize learning how to listen differently, not learning how to speak differently, not learning how to communicate your ideas differently. Is to create a shared practice, literally a practice of how are we going to listen to each other. And it looks like this. Most people listen to each other to agree or disagree. There are people watching this video right now who are like, I agree with him. I like this, or I disagree with what he's saying. That is a distraction from creating healthy team dynamics. And it's funny to think about that, but the other way of listening, if you shift from listening to agree or disagree to listen to understand, do I know what is important or why it's important that the other person has their point of view? What is important to that person? Why is it important, what they're saying important to them? And when people can start to see that they have not been listening to understand, they've been listening to agree or disagree, you can start to shift. It starts to soften that tendency to just be reactive, to prioritize. Do we really understand the other person's point of view? On an executive team, an executive point of view means you are able to consider all points of view and make clear, concerted decisions. And sometimes everyone won't agree, but everyone will be heard. Everyone's point of view is considered, and you're making decisions that are including the entire team and opening the space for more of that dialogue, that healthy discussion, because there's a priority on listening to understand, cutting through the bias to just be agreeing or disagreeing, and the polarity on your team just expands and expands and expands.